So it's good to see on your podcast you've been actively advocating for COVID-19 vaccines. Way to go! I've learned on this show it's difficult as a popularizer to take a stand on a polarizing issue. And my goal that I set out for this podcast was to just do that on many issues, to try to discuss the science and evidence and take it where it leads. But I think I didn't really understand the implications of this, as you said, with your equation in books thing. This is similar to equations with books. Every time you take a stand on a polarizing issue, you risk losing half your audience.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Yeah, it's entirely resonant with it. So I learned very early, and I learned this primarily not so much through Star Talk, but through my social media platforms, that it is not useful to express an opinion, because in social media, people get angry if your opinion does not agree with theirs. And that's an extraordinary point in the evolution of people's capacity to communicate. Extraordinary in the sense that, really? Do you want everyone in the world to have exactly your opinion on things? Well, there are, societies like that. They're called dictatorships, and everybody has to think and feel exactly the same way. And there's hardly any plurality of views and conducts and beliefs and all the like. So this can be very, it sounds like it could be unifying, but be careful what you wish for. And so much of what makes the world interesting is because we're all different from one another. And so I've instead carefully not expressed opinions and only offer perspectives that may inform your opinion. Now, because people, with my level of social media following, typically people with that level are opinion or thought leaders, as we call them, or pundits or whatever. And so they're expecting that I'm handing them an opinion. So many cases, I've just simply put out information, and people have interpreted it as an opinion. And so that's intrigued me, because what it means is there are people with a lens through which they interpret the world, and everything is tribal when seen through that lens. Yes. There's a missing capacity to see information, factual information that conflicts with your belief system about the world. And I'll just give a quick example that happened just a few weeks ago. I had all of these tweets since March 6th, 2020. I must have posted maybe 20 tweets, 30 tweets about COVID, all informational. And I said, wow, we still have a fourth of the country the United States, not getting vaccinated. All right, let me try one more tactic. So I looked at how many people were dying every day. At the time, it was 1,000. Right now, it's even higher than that. Dying every day unvaccinated people dying every day from COVID. Okay? It was rising through 1,000. And 98% of anyone in the hospital sick from COVID or dying from COVID were unvaccinated. So all these numbers conspire here. And so I said, then I checked at the demographic, where the demographics fall on this, and out I said, so about 1,000 people are dying every day from COVID, which means every 10 days, more than 8,000 unvaccinated Republican voters are dying, which is 5 times the rate of Democrats. So I thought to myself, the Republicans would get together and say, we need voters. Okay, we don't want to kill off all our voters because we want to win Congress in the next midterm election. All right, because that adds up, and particularly in districts and regions and counties, this can make a difference. So I thought that's how it would be received. As an educator, I put a lot of thought into what the receptors are to the information, might be in the mind of to the information that I'm putting out there. But that's not, fights broke out. It was like, I follow you for science, not because, now you're getting political. I said, I'm not getting political. These are the data. All right. It's like, and people said, how can I believe what you're saying? I don't believe it. Those numbers must be made up. And there was a denial of this blunt truth that stared them right in the face. Now, of course, the numbers are accurate, and I put way more thought into what I post than typically people put in to how they react. Right? I'm just saying. Sure, I put way more thought into it. But and people reported that tweet as offensive. And if you report a tweet as offensive to Twitter, Twitter has to then put it in front of a panel to analyze it, and then they come back to you and notify you whether they had to take down the tweet or not. And I got this letter to say it's been reported, we've evaluated, and no, we've decided it does not contain offensive material. So I'm saying, I'm glad that the truth is not offensive. Of all the things that are on social media, this one has got to be reviewed by you. That's kind of weird to me. So yes, this thing looked like an opinion because it got into the social cultural divide and put information there. But in fact, it was not. And not to talk this whole time, but let me give you one more example.
No, it's good.
After one of the horrific school shootings, I noted, and I just posted it, I said, at Walmart, the world's largest gun seller, you can buy an AR-15 rifle, yet company policy bans the sale of pop music with curse words. That's all I posted. That's all it was. Okay? That does not contain an opinion. It's a contrast of facts for you to just do with what you want. Maybe you didn't know that. You probably didn't know that, right? And people divided over it. Again, there's this interpretive lens that so many people carry. As you know, in our First Amendment, there's the protection of free speech, and the Second Amendment, interpreted by many, is the right to carry guns. And so the audience split. I would say 20% said, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That was my expectation. Then the rest split down the middle between it's a private company. They can choose to not sell bad words and think that would be bad for children. That's their prerogative. And the other half said, Second Amendment protects the gun ownership. And people, they were thinking I was arguing one or the other of those two views. Yet I was arguing neither. So the world artificially divided because this is I'm guessing, this is the urge, which is just what you're talking about in there. So, yeah, if you hold a point of view, what will happen is you lose the people who don't agree with the point of view, and then you're only speaking to the converted by the end. So I try hard to, here's what I do. I give if-then statements. Maybe you could do this. Okay. So another one of my COVID tweets was, for some states to have mask mandates while other states do not is like designating a peeing section of the swimming pool. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's all it is. It's an if-then statement. Okay, is it an opinion? It's just facts, really. Okay, you can't, if you want to contain a virus, you can't have adjacent areas have different rules about it. So yes, that's a COVID tweet. I see what
you're doing.
That's the point. Those two are ways to highlight insights that maybe you don't otherwise carry in your tribalistic views.
Interesting. What you mentioned the fact that Twitter, some shady group in Twitter gets to review all these quotes and decide whether or not they're allowable or not. And let's
They'll
see
only
RTC.
review it if someone complains about it.
How do you feel about that? Is it effective? Is it, is it hindering free speech? Is it helping the conversation? I'm kind of split about these things.
I don't know. What I do know is, given all the crap that's online, that tweet was going to be reviewed for being offensive. That was a little disturbing to me. Facts can be viewed by some people as offensive, and then Twitter reviews them. If that's the case, tell me about the stuff that's actually getting through that isn't fact. So I'm a little worried, for the platform in that sense. It's just a little worrisome.
I like the way you choose to provide perspective. I think you can bring in opinion on what you choose to highlight without explicitly bringing in opinion, I think.
Yeah, so I guess in all fairness, the tweets that I post only because there's a view that comes from a place. There is a place where these views come from, and this is what enables the the construction of the tweet in the first place. I was early out of the box on COVID, March 6th. Institutions are just at the brink of shutting down and meetings are getting canceled. And I said, the COVID is like an invasion, like an alien invasion that attacks only humans. And it doesn't care about your religion, your politics, your ideology, your thing. It is an enemy of the species. And we need to have a coordinated effort to combat it that is based on science and rational thinking, and not based on science and not on magical thinking.
Right.
So is that an opinion? I mean, I guess I could have said, no, we don't need to fight it. I could have said a lot of different things, but I'm trying to protect the species. And of course, not no one, but many people didn't heed this kind of advice. And of course, I was the least of the people giving that advice. There were health professionals and the CDC and all of this. I just felt responsible because of the size of my following, and I might be the only scientist that many people follow in their social media platforms. So
true.
I felt some duty to put that kind of information out there. But at no time do I say, get vaccinated. You should be vaccinated. I've never said that. I just give the consequences of not being vaccinated.
I see. Oh, that's very rational. I approve.
Well, that's because you have a rational podcast. That's why you approve.
The Rational View is a weekly series hosted by me, Dr. Alan Scott, providing a rational, evidence-based perspective on important societal issues.